I'm glad that they addressed certain things that that deaf people do. They love sex, just like anybody.
Boy, how they do that?
Boy, just like anybody else. Shit, deaf sex will make you horny because it sounds like they really enjoy it. They are louder than people who can hear.
I can imagine.
And don't think we're making fun of them because in this movie, you hear coming from that room, oh, and it's like, damn, man.
Yeah.
They make sex sound better than sex with abled people.
Well, I just love when they get busted and the dad was like, yeah, but your mom is hot. Look at her. What am I supposed to do?
She is hot.
Yeah, and hot, by the way, is spanking ass in sign language. He's like, look at her. I'm supposed to be the movie guy. You know, we're here because we like films, amongst other things. You know, movies, we do other things here. We have a lot of variety, but that's a major part of our description here. And I shamefully say that I kind of dropped the ball a little bit because the thing is, people, you know, I'm proud to know all of the movies that were nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards this year. Mm-hmm. But I did not even know one movie existed. I've been so busy, y'all. This totally slipped my radar. Right here. I did not know that this was out here at all. And I could make a tone deaf joke about it or something, but that would be very sensitive with the movie that we're talking about right now. And I will tell you this, I looked at the list of movies and I looked at this particular movie right here and I said, huh? I did not know what that was at all.
Really?
What the hell is that? And that movie was CODA. Now, some of y'all saying, damn, Corey, where you keep coming up the sound right here? And that's not me. That is not me. That is the movie. As I said, again, this is the movie that I did not hear about at all. No pun intended, by the way, not at all. But this is a movie that I did look at the list. I almost took it personal. I said, who nominated this movie without asking me? You know, what this is a movie about a CODA. And I also shamefully say, I did not know what a CODA was. But that is a child of a deaf adult. Ruby is the character here who is born into a family. And somehow that deaf gene is strong because all of them, everybody's deaf. The father's deaf, the mother's deaf, the eldest son is deaf. Somehow she came out the only one that could hear, which means that we're going to put your ass to work. You know, almost from the moment she was born to this world, they say, hey, you can hear, so you know what? We're going to save a lot of money on translators. So you're going to go learn sign language, and whenever we have to communicate with somebody for our business, which the family, they're working class, they have a fish business, a fishing business. They say, hey, you're going to do all our negotiations, and when we go to court, you're going to be our lawyer. You know, you're going to be there for everything that we got to do that requires translating. This girl gets up at 3 in the morning to go fishing, translate for these people, fish with them, and then she goes to school and then tries to also have extracurriculars outside of that. The moment that happens, that becomes a problem because with extracurriculars, then there comes a social life, maybe a boyfriend, and then college. And college means leaving home. They're like, the fuck you are. You know? So we've been getting all this free labor all these years. So, as you can probably tell, this adds some major conflict to the family dynamic. And the reason why, I say extracurricular activities, but Ruby's main and one extracurricular activity is singing. She's a great singer. Again, the irony, you know, this great singer being born into a deaf family. Cruel joke by God, some would say. But
yeah, so she has a talent that her family can't appreciate.
Yeah, exactly. And they can't appreciate, so she has a chance to go to Berkeley with a scholarship. But as I said, the family's like, well, hey, we don't want to lose you and that free labor. So this is going to be awkward. Now, I'm going to tell you with this movie, man, when I did not hear about it and I dropped everything to watch it because not only is this a movie where it's on the best list category for Best Picture, or the list of nominations for Best Picture, not only is it on there, but all of a sudden this came out where everybody was talking about something like Power of the Dog being that's a shoo-in. Oh, that's gonna win. 2 days ago, 48 hours later, people start talking about, well, don't count CODA out. Mm-hmm. CODA might be the one. That's this might be the big upset right here, which could be a possibility because we've had those a lot. I mean, what was it, Moonlight?
Sure.
Which came in and surprised everybody. I gotta tell you though, I saw this, and I don't know how everybody else feels about it, whether it's you, Martin, or the chat, but man, I love this film. On a technical level, you could look at this and see that on a technical level, this might not be up there with other contenders. It ain't got Doom level cinematography. It doesn't. It ain't got the money and the actors like Power of the Dog got. It was only shot for $10 million too, and played the independent circuit before it got acquired by Searchlight Pictures. But out of all the films that I saw, I'm gonna say, man, that this is one of the best examples of the power of storytelling. Saying this right here is the real power of film. It's not about money. It's not about studios. It's about characters and story. And I really appreciate it with this. I cried at the end of this movie. And that's something I don't do today. I don't know what happened to me. I just became I'm a dick now. I don't know. I don't cry in movies anymore. But I was crying so much at this because, it was one thing to see, because one of the things that this movie's being talked about for and being really, really applauded for is for using real deaf actors in those positions. And to see these actors, and we're going to tell you these actors are in a little bit. Some you know, some you might not know. But to see these actors right here and, given this opportunity, where it's rare, 0.001% of disabled people, including deaf people, have representation in the mainstream, including Hollywood. So to see these people just give these moving performances and showing what they can do when given a chance, they transcended the characters for me, and that moved me a lot with this film. And I loved it so much that I went back and I watched some of the favorite parts because I was under a lot of pressure to watch some of these movies,
Yeah.
So I said, let me go back and just watch. I can't watch it all, but let me watch some of my favorite parts of this when I don't feel as much pressure, to watch this. And maybe I should have done that, because now I'm looking at it, I'm like, I love this movie, but I can see some problems.
Yeah. Oh, okay. This. Okay, so you do see that too, because I was like, well, okay, maybe it's just me.
No, well, let me ask you something. What problems do you see with this movie?
Well, I don't have big problems with it, because I like you, I liked it a lot, and it's a crowd pleasing film. It's inspirational, and I can see why people will cry or at least tear up watching it. My problems, and they're minor. They don't ruin the film, but as you mentioned, as filmmaking goes, it's fairly pedestrian. There's nothing spectacular. Even story-wise, you kind of know where it's going to go, just from the way it's going. There's not even big surprises outside of the acting itself. I probably had more of a problem with the music, and it's one of those things where they're taking classic Motown songs, but they're like, hey, isn't that great how they're singing it? I'm like, yeah, where they're pulling every ounce of soul out of it. Sure. Yeah. This kind of thing gets praised a lot, like, with Glee and all that. And I was like,
yeah, well, you can see why I didn't like Pitch Perfect and all that.
Yeah.
Because there was a little bit of that to me too. It was just like, damn, you take all these soul songs and then, there's hardly any representation of color in there. Mm-hmm. But then again, they were singing Bowie and some other things too.
I know, and they're near Boston, where there's probably only 2 black people in that school.
Yeah. And plus they're fishermen,
fishermen. I know, but that the movie still knows. But another thing I had a little bit of a problem with is that for all this praise this movie is getting, I am kind of upset that Eugenio Derbez didn't get a nomination for Best Supporting Actor, because he's really good in this.
Yeah, Eugenio Derbez is the music teacher in this.
And that what he does in that's the kind of performance that normally gets a nod, and it's like he got completely looked over. Like I didn't even know he was in it, so I was shocked to see him in it.
Yeah, no, he's great in it. He really is. You know, my problem with the movie goes, and I say problem. I should say I'm just being a little more cautious, because when I went back and saw it again, I'm looking at it from a different angle now. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I thought about with this is that I'm loving this movie from the point of view of an able person, a person that can hear. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh man, oh my God, the plight of that poor girl who has both her ears and who can in her eardrums, who can hear perfectly. I thought, like, I'm looking at this and thinking that this is okay. So this is made by made by people who can hear, mainly about a character. Ruby's the central character, made about a person that can hear. For a deaf person watching this, are the deaf characters the family? Do they come across as secondary characters to them? Is this the kind of representation that they want? I would even go as far to say, is this a case where, because of Ruby being, the one that is the martyr and also the savior for the family in a way here, is this an abled savior movie, that we have here? I'm speaking as someone, and I'm not saying that this is what this is, because I really do still like this movie.
Yeah.
I don't, but I ask this because, I'm asking this as a person of color who, after hearing other people, including myself, talk about Oscars so white, after my years of talking about diversity and representation in Hollywood and in the media and in everywhere in life, I had to step back and look at this and be like, I'm not a person who's deaf. So I don't know, how this is for people who are deaf, but also, if this wins Best Picture, I think I'm bringing this up because I think these discussions are going to be had. I really think this is something where if it wins Best Picture, we are going to start having a conversation about not color, not sexuality, not gender, but we're going to start having this discussion about what is the representation that we put out there for people who are handicapped. Because I don't know. And I do see this as something where if this had been, we always talk about the male representation. We always talk about the white savior in movies. What's a movie like for deaf people when they are not the central character here? Ruby is a character who, I felt so bad for this girl.
Sure.
She gets up at 3 a.m. Mm-hmm. When I'm going to bed at 4.
Right.
And she gets up at 3 a.m, helps his family. And the cool thing about this is that Ruby's not a brat about it. And believe me, if anybody had a reason to be an asshole about the situation, it's Ruby, because they don't let Ruby do anything.
Well, it's not just her getting up at 3 a.m. to work. She goes straight to school. She smells like fish. She already had people making fun of her because her family is deaf.
Yeah.
So she's got a lot going on, and she's handling it, as better than most people would. The family, they are being selfish with her, but you can see where they're coming from, and it's almost like they need this as a wake-up call. It's just as much about your kids growing up and outgrowing you, like just having to let them go. It's so much more about that than anybody's handicap. And as far as the representation of characters, the dad was probably my favorite character in this whole thing.
He's up for the Academy Award nomination.
Yeah, because every time he was on screen, I was just so like, what's he gonna do or say next?
Yeah, that guy, and I forgot his name, but he's up for an Academy Award. And some people say that he's in the lead to get it. But you're right about the family. The family's not holding her back. This is what I mean by both sides. You see what Ruby's going through, and you really feel for it. And you're like, man, this is almost child abuse what they're doing to this girl. But then the family's like, this is a special situation. They're like, hey, look, man, they're not villains. They're working class people. They don't have the money to like get the resources.
Right. They're being squeezed.
Yeah, and there's a fishing company that's like trying to rip them off. And so, they're holding her back because they don't know where else to turn. They're scared. So this does a great job at like representing both situations here. You know, her leaving is a frightening thing for them.
Sure.
Besides them just losing, it's not a matter of just they feel this way. It's not just a matter of though, we losing our baby. It's like we might lose our livelihood. Although in some parts of this, like I don't know if they just if they don't do this in this town because it's so small or whatever. But like when you go to court, don't they give you? There's a scene to go to court. Don't they give you an interpreter in court?
I would think so. Well, even the thing they have to go to court over, I was like, I feel like y'all could get a lawyer and sue for discrimination here.
Yeah, there's some things here that I think that they're just doing for movie's sake.
Drama.
Yeah,
Drum it up.
yeah, or to create kind of conflict here. But yeah, man, it's and as far as going back to what you're saying about Eugenio Derbez, man, I love this guy because he's a comic actor, and when he came on, we had the montage, we had him doing his shtick, and I was like, oh, here we go with this silly shit. All right, the comic relief, but he was one of the most emotional, dramatic characters in the movie. You know, it's I really like that about him, man. You know, his role is way more dramatic than what it first came across. But I'm gonna tell you that I still defend this movie, man, and because like I said, the filmmaking I think is great. You know, it's not a matter of this is what I mean by it's not a matter of production with this. When you talk about some of the things that they do effectively without having to have a big budget or a lot of drama going on, they have a beautiful scene in here and it's really cool the way they did this because this is the moment in the movie where it should be the big musical number. This is where Ruby gets to come out and show, you know, all her talent and shows we can do it. This is where we're supposed to get up as an audience and applaud her. And right when she gets into it, the movie goes silent. And it's a really beautiful moment in the film.
Right when you're ready to hear her, we go to complete silence and shift POVs to this family.
You know, deaf dad's like, damn, her allergies acting up. You don't know she crying.
Well, what's really good about that point is prior to that, people are singing and their parents are looking around like,
Right.
All right, I guess.
No, they're not.
What you got over there?
No, they're not looking around like that. No, they're looking around and they're seeing the reactions of everybody.
No, right there they are. Prior to that, before
yeah.
they're kind of bored because they're like they can't hear anything.
Well, yeah, they're confused. You know, they're just like, we don't know what people see in this girl.
Yeah.
You know, and also they're looking around thinking like, is she making a fool out of herself?
Yeah.
You know, because they keep saying, you know, what if you're not talented? Because they can't hear her. They tell her that straight up. Like mom says, well, what if I was blind? Should I be trying to paint? You know?
Jesus.
Yeah, this year in cinema has not been nice to moms.
No, it has not.
A lot of mommy
This
issues
is like
on
the
screen.
fourth movie in a row I've seen
Yeah.
where they make the mom look bad.
Yeah, no. And Marlee Matlin, who's been working constantly as a deaf actress. She was Children of a Lesser God.
Yeah, she was 19 years old back then.
Yeah, she won an Academy Award for that, Best Actress. But you know, it wasn't just a moment of silence right here. You know, it was that was meant to build tension or you know get you heightened for that moment. You know, when she comes back and she's belting those notes. No, this was all about her folks.
Shows their perspective.
Yeah, their
I get
perspective,
that.
and where it was going to be. This is one of the things I'm talking about. Where it's like I'm talking about how they're playing secondary characters, and it is about Ruby, the girl who can hear. But there are moments where it says, no, let's focus on the deaf people right here. And that was one because they don't come back and she's going crazy or anything. You know what I'm saying? It's all about them.
Right.
Like they don't even show you most of that moment.
Yeah, that's a really interesting choice to make, and it makes you see their perspective and like, okay, I get why they don't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is exactly it.
Yeah.
Smart decision.
I'm glad that they addressed certain things that deaf people do. They love sex, just like anybody.
Boy, how they do that.
Boy, just like anybody else. Shit, deaf sex will make you horny because it sounds like they really enjoy it. They are louder than people who can hear.
I can imagine.
And don't think we're making fun of them because in this movie, you hear coming from that room, oh, and it's like, damn, man.
Yeah.
They make sex sound better than sex with abled people.
Well, I just love when they get busted and the dad was like, yeah, but your mom is hot. Look at her. What am I supposed to do?
She is hot.
Yeah, and hot, by the way, is spanking ass in sign language. He's like, look at her. And I'm like, all right, y'all be having some kinky ass sex.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and you know, they also show that deaf people are not, because you think you're around deaf people and they're going to be quiet. They're loud because they like to slam things. They get really, you know, they get really into what they're saying because they're being very animated. You know, they use a lot of body language, of course, with sign language. So they go slamming shit and, you know, and getting angry. And thing is, when they get mad, it's funny too because, again, I'm not making fun of them, but back the fuck up because all of a sudden that sign language start turning to kung fu and shit. All right. You're talking to people like this. I'll tell you why I was crying in this, man, because there's some really moving scenes that they do. And I don't know, maybe there's
a number of them.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
And maybe there's just something about seeing people communicate through pure emotion and expression that really just seems stronger to me. There's a very moving scene here where Ruby's dad, whose name is Frank in the movie, is trying to understand his daughter's talent, and because he just doesn't hear, you know, and she don't rap, so you know, so what he does is he puts his hand to her throat to kind of feel the talent, and I almost lost it in that scene.
And the lyrics of that song are really, really resonant.
You were my destiny.
Well, I'm trying to get a good listen. Keep going. Keep going.
You're like, damn, she's good.
Some emotion behind it.
Yeah. Oh, you're like, damn, she sucks. What was that bullshit? Again, if it wins Best Picture, which they say is a chance, I'm just thinking ahead of some discussions that are going to be brought up. Because while this is bringing more awareness to deaf people and deaf culture, Ruby is still the main character, and the main point of the other characters is still about their deafness. So, you know, I'm just wondering if there will be questions brought up by deaf people where they say, that's cool, but, you know, just like black people have said, you know, why does black always have to be the focus of our stories all the time? You know, why can't we have our rom-coms or our dramas where we're just people? And I'm not saying that there haven't been, but Hollywood really loves to take, you know, stories and, you know, use social issues for dramatic effect and whatnot. You know, I can see deaf people actually saying, you know, like, you know, where's our rom-coms about deaf people, or where are disabled people in general? Where are those movies we're just looked at as outside of our disability, normal people?
It's a fair question to ask. I don't think it's necessarily fair to put it all on this movie.
Well, I'm not putting it on this movie, but this movie will be when it wins. If it wins, these discussions probably will have it. Not like I said, I'm not protesting this. I'm not saying that but this is going to be the movie where it's going to be, again, at this moment, the most popular movie about disabilities and deaf people, and it's going to have people saying, you know, where's our deaf Black Panther or something like that, you know?
I would think, like, would they prefer something like this, or would they prefer something like A Quiet Place, Part 1 and 2, where the main character is deaf and she's a hero, and throughout that entire 2 films.
And deaf people did praise that.
Yeah.
They were saying this is really cool, where this is her disability is brought in as a heroic thing, but not the main focus of the film.
Exactly.
Yeah. It could be that controversial movie where people start talking about it later on down the line, like, well, you know, if these things that I'm saying could be somewhat a topic of discussion, people might be saying, well, did it really deserve to win or anything? And I'm not, again, this is not me. I'm just saying that there are movies in the past that have done this. Some I've completely disagreed with, and you guys asked me about this earlier. Something like Crash.
Oh, I knew that was the one you were talking about.
From like, and I was, listen, I'm not going to even sit up here in front. You know, when this won, I thought like, well, shit, my ignorant ass mind, I thought, yeah, this deserves it. This is powerful. And now I look at it today, and I'm just kind of like, this movie didn't know what the fuck it was talking about. It's one of the most, and again, I say this because I really mean this. I'm making a joke, you know, in context of this movie. But this is one of the most tone-deaf ass movies about race that I've seen. Shit, they tried to actually get us to feel sympathy for a sexual assaulter, because a racist sexual assaulter, because, oh, he rescued a black woman from a burning car, you know? Like, oh my God, aren't we all more fucking aware after this? It's like, nah, man, that movie's bullshit. But then there's some movies out there that I look at and I'm like, yeah, there are problems. But they did open up a discussion. I don't agree with all of those problems, but some of those things that they're saying are valid. And then some of those things I think people should be they should be aware of what good the movie's doing.
Tell me that don't smell good.
I've never had fried chicken in my life.
You people love the fried chicken.
You have a very narrow assessment of me, Tony.
Green Book was a movie that I loved when it came out, and I still think that there's some things about Green Book that are actually, because there are a lot of people saying this movie is everything that we're talking about as far as problems with Hollywood goes, you know. And I see what they're saying, and it's true. You know, Green Book is another movie that is produced and made by white Hollywood, and they pat themselves on the back for what they're doing. But in the end, it really is a white savior film. But at the same time, I don't completely throw this movie away because I think it showed a black lead in a positive light and also brought awareness to the Green Book itself. So it was somewhat educational for some people too. But I do understand the things that we're talking about. So I'm looking at this movie and thinking like, all right, at some point, it's possible that people could be talking about maybe this is slightly like the Green Book for deaf people, or, you know, did this movie, did it win because Hollywood was so proud of itself for giving something to the disabled? These are things that, and again, this is a review and a discussion. These are things I'm looking at and talking about in lieu of this probably winning the Academy Award.
Possibly winning.
Thank you. Possibly winning the Academy Award. And here's something else. Even I'm talking about the things that this movie was doing. We already have an Academy Award-winning deaf actress in here, Marlee Matlin. And she, even for this movie, even then with all this movie's doing for deaf people, I think at one time she said, I'm going to walk if you don't bring in deaf actors to play the actual deaf family in here. So, you know, goes to show that even going into this, there wasn't the kind of enlightenment that the movie has after it's done. This is also based on a French film. And I'll tell you, from what I've heard about this, because I looked this up after I heard about this movie. This is based on a French movie, and I forgot the title of it. But same sort of premise, of course.
De ta mère s'était tendue. Est-ce que ton père aimait la crème que je lui ai prescrite? Comment non?
J'ai le vagin en feu, des champignons partout.
See, I told you get back. I told you get back. You said there with bloody nose and black eyes. Yeah. But I heard that this movie, CODA, actually was an improvement over the French film. The French film used most of the family, the deaf family, as comic relief. Yeah. So, you know, this is something where they even, with this movie, came in and were aware of what we have to do better. So, you know, if we were talking about being safe with this film, I would say that I'm not saying they should do this. Nobody should try to avoid controversy, you know, if your movie's up for Best Picture. But Troy Kotsur, man, who, as I said, plays a dad, Frank. The safe thing probably to do would be to give him the Best Actor award. And then, you know, the movie has the nomination to always say that, all right, look, we achieved that, if you were being safe, you know. But we'll see. Maybe there'll be no controversy at all. Maybe there will be. But I do know, for some reason, I say this as a person who is able and can hear. I still root for the film, and I hope people understand I root for this movie in all the right ways. This is one of my, if I have to make a list, and I haven't done a list yet, the way this movie moved me, man, and the way I think that this really is bringing some sensitivity and awareness to the deaf community and the disabled, this is a full price for me. I really love this film, man. I enjoyed it very much.
It's more of a lower full price for me, and I just saw it last night. I haven't revisited my top 10 to know whether it would make it on there or not, but it would have a good shot at it.
Yeah. No, it's very good, man. And I do recommend people watch it. And if by some chance there is a controversy that happens after this, understand that we had the best intentions. I don't want people looking at a review later on like, look at them assholes. You know, they contributed to all that.
We've had that before.
We've had it. We'll have it again. You know, I just don't want. I just don't want a bunch of deaf people coming to the studio and, you know, jumping on their ass doing this shit. All right, hey, get out. All right. I'm sorry. Shit.
Come get your mom.